What's up, everybody? Uh, doing another podcast this week. Took a little bit of a break last month to stop. I really didn't do that many podcasts, but I've been doing more lately, and pretty much been having Mr. Annual, aka Coach, in here for them because he seems to be the good talking point man.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I'm like a recurring guest or you just bamboozled me into being a to a co-host.
It's more like I know this guy will talk to me. Oh man, but yeah, so we're gonna talk about Virtua Fighter today, and funnily enough, this game is something I've always wanted to play, but I never just got into it just because it just never was a good time. Like it wasn't when I finally was interested in playing, like during the 360 era, I was playing like Street Fighter 4 hardcore. And then the PS4 came out. And then I don't think they ever released a PS4 version, which is what they're doing now. And growing up, I never had Virtual Fighter. My parents never bought me Virtual Fighter. And honestly, I just never had a moment to get in. And you know, it's funny. Now, the worst part is now I still can't play Virtual Fighter. This one in any way.
Mhm.
But yeah. What about you, Coach? You seem to be a fan of some kind. I mean, I didn't even know you liked it like that. And then you told me the character's name, and I was like, oh, he likes the game because your little icon is that, and I didn't know who the hell that was. You're like, oh, it's from Virtual Fighter.
So I remember that. You like, is that an MMO character? Is that one of your MMO characters you made as an icon?
Yeah, I was like, is that an MMO character? You're like, no, that's a Virtual Fighter character.
So my story is, like I played one and two a bit in the arcade, but I've never been a diehard fan, and I never owned like the 32X or a Sega Saturn, and I never got the copy of VF4 Evo for PS2 until much later. So I never really played it. It was just something I knew about. But the big thing that got me into it is Black Star, who was from our scene in Middle Georgia here at the time. He was running the he's a diehard fan. He had the Sega Saturn and all those stuff, and so he played those games growing up. And so he's like the diehard long time fan. And so what he did, he was gonna run the VF5 Final Showdown tournament because they finally announced it, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna take this version of the arcade and put it on the digital store for PS4, PS3, and X360." And so he was gonna throw a tournament for final round, and he had been doing it for like 2 or 3 years at that. After that, but that first year, he's like, "Oh man, I need some, I need some PS3s," and so he came to me, Doki Samus, Laswaga, and was like, "Yeah, I will buy you Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown if you let me use your PS3s for this tournament. I have it final round." And Shin Blanc even gave him his own little room there in that little area, like in the middle. And so I was like, sounds interesting. So I just went and bought the game myself. I didn't even take his money. I just went and bought the game myself, and I messed around. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
And and I drove over to his house and gave him my PlayStation. And then like at final round, I messed with it a little bit more. I was like, this is pretty cool. Like I wasn't super into it or anything. Like I think I was like you playing Street Fighter 4 mostly at the time. And I entered a couple tournaments. Like he threw a tournament back when ATL Revival was done. It was like a 4-man round robin.
yeah.
I got last place, but I played in it. And so it's something I've always dabbled in. But I keep up with the community and talk to people in communities. Like some of the people like I talk to on a regular basis in the fight game community end up coming from Virtua Fighter just because of associating with Black Star. And then you find people who you naturally have affinity with, and then you talk to them more often. So that's how I got into it. And then Black Star would always host like sessions, so we play like Street Fighter, then Guilty Gear. So sometimes some nights we just crack out on Virtua Fighter, and that's when I really started getting into it because I wanted to learn. I want to figure out how to beat him. I wanted to yeah, just get better overall. And I guess that's how I started getting more and more into the game because I just like learning, and then I just kind of it's a game I love. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm like a competitive hardcore guy, but I like it enough. I have a decent working knowledge of it, and I know a decent amount of people in the community.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know anyone at all. I know Black Star, right? But I'm not like talking to Black Star every fucking day or anything. But I had nobody in my inherent circle forever that even talked about that game or played it or anything. And I don't know, it just always seemed like, yeah, I think the issue with that was I don't think Was PS3 the game that game was like played on all the time?
It was a mix, right? Because I mean, you would generally see PS3s because after the Evo thing, people started shifting to that in tournament. But people would bring it for 360 too, and so it was either or. But generally, if like Blackstar didn't bring it to like an Atlanta local, you wouldn't see it.
Okay. Well, I never went to locals until. I mean, I did on and off, like very rarely, but I didn't continuously go until like the end of Street Fighter 4. So I missed. I went to one revival. I swear I never go back again. And I went to a revival, and then Pokechop did not give a fuck, or it's not that he didn't give a fuck. It was that I don't think he cared enough because when I went to revival, I went and competed in Street Fighter 4, and dude, I had to play on like 3 or 4 different monitors, all with different latency. Some were really bad latency. Some were just HD televisions, and I just never went back. So
Yeah, that was back in the day where people just had to bring their stuff because there was no like organized,
anything. There was
yeah.
no,
So
yeah, there's nothing.
yeah,
Like there was like, ah, guys, just show up and bring what you got. That's what it
hmm
was.
yeah, you had to make do.
Yeah, I definitely did not. You know me, so I fucking just never went back. I was just like, I'm good. I was good after that.
I
But
understand.
yeah, I mean, I never saw it or anything, and like I said, it was never a game that was like, oh, Virtual Fighter, this is for plebs. It was just like, I don't know anyone that plays it, and I don't have it, and I don't. I'm into Street Fighter 4 right now, so I'm not gonna buy it. And obviously, before Street Fighter 4, I was like in my teens, and I wasn't working. So if I had a game, it would have to be coming from my family or whatever. They never bought me Virtual Fighter. I just don't have any experience with it. But
Nah, it's understandable.
it's here now.
It is.
So here's the big hoopla, right, with this game is that this game is this new one is the same as well, it's not the same, right? It's not Final Showdown. It's like a rebalanced version, right?
Oh, it's not rebalanced. It is the same core game mechanically and functionally, but they redid the graphics entirely into a new engine, and they added a bunch of modes that weren't in the game before.
I could have swore I read it got rebalanced, but maybe I just misread that as them reworking the game from the ground up. Because I know they made the game again, essentially, from scratch, because it's in a different engine completely, right? And then new graphics and everything. But
Yep, the good old Yakuza engine.
I mean, it looks cool. Just if it's the same game, so here's the hoopla. I guess at this point is that
Mhm.
this game is coming out, right? And it has the word esports on the front of it.
Only in Japan, man.
Only in Japan.
Yeah,
And
we're Ultimate Showdown here.
yeah, we're Ultimate Showdown, but that shit is called esports. And I read the interview of what was his name? This is making me look bad. I had it up and I lost it. The interview with Seiji Aoki,
Mhm.
and he he was very insistent that this is made for competitive play, or they had competitive players in mind, right? But the things that they talk about are like a tournament mode and something else. Two things that no competitive player gives a shit about, right?
Mhm.
So my thing is that I don't know where their focus is with this game, because if their real attempt is to make it competitive, as in it needs to fit in the environment of what a competitive game would be today, then their idea of this is for competitive people is not correct. They're making this with like a tournament mode when really people just want like a functional game that makes it so they can fight as much as possible, right? We don't have the
Right.
game yet. We have no idea if the lobbies are good, bad, amazing, terrible. We don't know anything. So my issue is that it is this game with a company like Sega. By the way, guys, I love Sega. All right, Coach knows I'm not lying. I like Sega. Right?
Hey man, I saw the Dreamcast stream,
Yeah,
man.
I had the Dreamcast stream. I streamed the Dreamcast. I have pictures of the Dreamcast. I fucking loved my Dreamcast. Now, I love Sega. I love a lot of their games. But we gotta be honest with ourselves here. The Sega, the same Sega from back in the day. Because this Sega is not like Sega obviously doesn't make consoles anymore. And their game variety has dwindled to like 3 games. And which is something
We talked about before.
we talked about this last week, I think, or 2 weeks before. They have like 3 games now. This Sega Dreamcast has like 15 to 20, 25 Sega games on it. But now you can only count you can count on one hand how many games Sega makes. And my problem is that Sega is not really a company that I would call with the times in terms of their view on games. And or maybe it's not even that. It's not that they're not with the times. It's that the last fighting game they made was this game, right? I don't even know if they ever made another fighting game other than Virtual Fighter, but
They haven't historically, but like not since Virtua Fighter 4 Eva. I don't think anymore after that.
so that's like, man, what is that, like a 13-year gap? So
It's
they're kind of like jumping in the pool, right? They're just like cannonball, and I think they probably have a lot of this game. The way they explained it to in the interview is that the way he says that he had a fight to get this game made, right? So it's not something that they were interested in making. The guy was interested in making it, but the company probably wasn't. And the only reason he even got it done is because apparently it was Sega's 60th project,
yeah.
and they wanted it to be something special. So Virtual Fighter special, and it is special. It's one of if I remember correctly, it's the first 3D fighting game ever. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it came out on before Tekken or anything really.
Tekken basically the first Tekken are basically kind of like we're just kind of trying to copy Virtua Fighter, and they kind of went their own route after that. And DOA is essentially like VF2 a VF2 mod. Basically, they built it on the same system.
Yeah, I remember Virtual Fighter coming out before everything, and
Yeah.
that's part of it historical. That's part of its historic. Actually, I can't remember if it was the first like 3D console game you could have like that. I can't remember that. I just know it was
I
the
think
first
it was the first. Yeah, it's the first 3D fighter,
fighter
and
for
they
sure.
yeah, they actually funny. Like I guess it's kind of an aside, but they actually went in to talk to a military company, and that's how they got the chip to actually make that polygonal stuff. So that was like really groundbreaking and crazy at the time.
And now you look back at it, it looks like a bunch of fucking boxes fighting each other.
Yeah.
But back then, it's a big deal. Like it is a big deal. It's like Street Fighter was like the first fighting game essentially, like to become mainstream like that, and then Virtua Fighter was the first 3D fighting game. But despite its historical relevance, it's these guys. That was forever ago, and they fought to make this, and then somehow so to me it's crazy they had to fight to make this, and then they rebuilt. They didn't just fucking remaster. They rebuilt the damn thing from the ground up. It has the fucking Yakuza engine, right? Like you said, or what? I can't remember the name of the engine, but it uses the same engine as Yakuza, right? And
Yeah.
so they didn't just like port the damn game over. They fucking redid it. That's the craziest shit. Like I don't even know how you get funding for this, and then you go from a simple port to like rebuilding it from scratch, and then on top of that, it's free on PlayStation Plus for I think like a couple days, right?
Yeah. No, it's 2 months.
2 months. It's free for 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing about all this is that they did it all on their timeline. Sega's like, if you don't get it out by June 3rd, we don't care. And so they had to like pull in American devs, and they basically had to like pump this out under a strict timeline after kind of begging to get it like greenlit. So like this is like one of those things that could have not happened easily.
I mean, yeah, I'm surprised it happened at all. I mean, even Sonic doesn't get a game every once in 4 years. So like, Virtua Fighter existing is crazy to me because they really just make Fantasy Star Online now, and Was it Persona? That's really it.
Yeah, they bought out this like AM2, the arcade studio. You know, they've been make they make God, what is that? Like Kansai Girls, the Ship Girl games, the original Ship Girl games. They make arcade games of that, and they made like a big shooter game called Border Break. But they hadn't been working on Virtua Fighter for a good while after they got out the Final Showdown to arcades.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've already said it about I said this about them, but they used to make a ton of games. I mean, I love Sega Bass Fishing. I like fucking I like Fantasy Star, I like Sonic, I like uh I played Space Channel 5 a little bit, but it was fun. But they have a big library. They were primarily I think okay. So the way Sega is that in the beginning they were console, like they had their own console and they made Sonic and they made all these other games. But eventually they were like a powerhouse in the arcade scene. They literally had everything on the Sega Naomi, and a lot of games were on there. And they had their own like brand of arcade cabinets. They were like a big arcade guys. But obviously that wasn't as profitable as what they're doing now, which is just making two games. So
Yeah, I mean at this point that's true. I mean there's a point where the arcade for them was like the building blocks to their company.
yeah, back then it was more profitable then, right? Because on net play wasn't like a primary way for people to game back then. Like we're talking about the Dreamcast here. Dreamcast. I'm looking at my Dreamcast here right now, right? It's got the built-in DSL port, and that's just literally the Dreamcast is literally the cutoff point for when that kind of stuff went away, because the Dreamcast having to have a port for internet is signifying the change. Because after the Dreamcast, you know, we have like the 360, the Xbox,
Yeah.
and we have NetPlay.
That's more for the West, I would say, because in Japan the arcades, even you can even still say it's still profitable today. Like the biggest hit to Japan arcade is actually COVID, and not like the passing of time.
Well, obviously, not the entire world has the
Yeah, but I'm saying
transportation.
like they still like hit the arcade industry pretty hard, like a lot of companies did, because like even like ArcSys putting out the Guilty Gear Xrd on arcade first because like it still pulls in a good amount of money because people are paying to play each time.
To me, that's insane. It's not insane because I understand it's fun to go play with people, but there's no way people didn't buy Exard 50 times over. Like Tomo definitely bought Exar 130 billion times over to get that good. Like, have you seen his win count? His play count? Dude, he definitely paid for Exar like fucking like 300 times over. That dude's insane. I don't know how the hell he did that. But
Some people who don't even buy console, like console market is not that strong there, and just in general the console market is mainly for us here because they mainly play on their phones now.
yeah, it's true. And now we have the, but you know what's actually becoming bigger is a PC market. And
Not in Japan.
I know it's weird, but I'm bringing it up still because we ain't got no PC version of this game.
Yeah, so on top of everything here, because a lot of people are suspecting that Sony is like funding this. It may or may not be true. Who knows? Um, but like on top of the fact that they had to kind of get it out at some reasonable time is interesting because they're making an arcade version, which means it's one of those. It's not a dedicated cab like Final Showdown. I think the Lindbergh cab it is. It's on the AllNet system, so you download the thing to your cab and you pay I guess some monthly fee or whatever to put those games on your cab. And so they basically have a working PC version, same as Sam Show, as we remember from that Windows era when they first introduced the.
Yeah, that was yeah. And
But
then
yeah, they essentially have one.
I didn't see no Epic Game Store error on that thing. I saw a Windows error. So what the hell was keeping them from?
Yeah, I mean that's bankroll. So I don't know if Sega's going to the Epic Game Store, but what a lot of people are suspecting is that the after August 2nd, when it comes out to PS Plus, that it might start going to other consoles and other systems. That is a suspicion, rumors, and there was like on their website, the Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown site. There's like a placeholders for Xbox and Steam and stuff. So it's possible that after August 2nd, where they get everyone who has the console a freebie, trying it out and trying to get a buzz about it, they'll sell it on the other systems, but we'll see.
You can only hope. It seems like a big miss to not have your fighting game on a PC at this point, especially when, like you said, most of these the way these are built, it might as well be on PC. I don't see the extra budget because if you're building it for the arcade, the way the arcade is designed these days, then there's no harm in just making a PC version. It doesn't make any sense. It's not like back in the day where if you want to play Street Fighter 2, you had to buy its own dedicated like cartridge and like plug it into a different board and then wire it up to a JAMA system. The way it works now is they literally just download the damn game from wherever and then load it up to the arcade cab. So I don't
Hmm.
know. It just seems like it's not a too big of a stretch to make one, and it just I don't know. I don't know why they would do it, but they wouldn't do it. But it's possible. It's exclusivity to Sony for a reason, like bankroll, like you said, like just hey paid for a certain amount of time for it to only exist on there. But I mean, to me, that just kills fighting games. Fighting games already need every possible chance they need. So if you ever bankroll some shit like that, then you fucked yourself.
Yeah, that is to me. Like we're gonna talk about the R word later, but that is, I think, like immediately that is the most pressing issue because you got a whole bunch of people who, even if they're willing to give it a chance for whatever flaw that has the game has, they can't physically do it.
Yeah, I mean, just like me, right? Like I know you like this game, and I don't know how to play, but I still wouldn't mind playing you, and you live close. So if I wanted to buy this game just to own it and try it out and play everybody that lives here in Georgia, I can't because I only have the PC. And I mean, that's just something I have to deal with, I guess. And really, it's funny because aside from Samurai Showdown, which I guess I'm just fucking cursed at this point, this is the only other fighting game that has been PC, like exclusive to like consoles. Because Street Fighter 5 went on PC, Tekken 7 went on PC, Guilty Gear Xrd went to PC a little later, I think.
Yeah, that was like the last time that happened because like after that, that's when you started seeing like simultaneously, or at worst, you wait 2 weeks to a month to
Yeah.
get it on PC. And so now it's like it's not a huge gap, and usually it's going to be simultaneous. Like Strive is going to come out on PC the same day as console, so they've definitely looked at it and they realized because there's a lot of places in the world and like a lot of U.S. and European players, I guess I should say North American and European players, they don't think about the fact that just besides PC being the big thing in places like in some countries in South America, the like Brazil for example, the consoles are marked up pretty high. So like a PlayStation 4 here would be what at the time like 500 or $600 depending on what version you got, right? But there it might be like $1,800.
Yeah, so they're even better off just using a PC down there.
Mm. So yeah, they get around that because they can order the specific parts, and then they're not tariffed. Like if they buy like a pre-built, which would probably cost a ton, so they can build it up by buying the pieces. So it's kind of like a loophole. That's what one of my Brazilian friends told me. And so stuff like that exists all over the world where the consoles might be banned, like it was in China up until like what 15 something years ago. And so like yeah, so at this point you got to look at it and you're like, yeah, I got to release this on PC if I want to reach the maximum possible audience. And so Japanese devs in general, not just the fighting game, have kind of caught on, but you're still seeing that resistance there little by little.
I mean, this is the same company that took 10 years to release Fantasy Star Online 2 in the fucking United States in English.
You know what's funny? It had an English version all along. If you played in Hong Kong, it was English.
Yeah, so what
And
the what yeah, so what the fuck?
so yeah, that was a weird thing, and when they finally announced, people were just like, people were still hype. I'm like, it's like you have been begged for this for like 12 years. They're like, yeah, this is hype. Here you go. It's like we wanted that when you teased it and marketed it. And like they even showed it in Western game shows, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was really weird that they showed it to everybody, hyped it up, marketed it, all the PR. They're like, well, it's Asia only, Japan and Hong Kong.
For no real reason. I can't really understand why they did it. I mean, like you said, it had an English version. It just doesn't. Just didn't want to fucking really. Fucking Sega, man. I'm a big Fantasy Star fan, like a big one, and I play Phantasy Star Online like crazy. I played Bluebirds like crazy. I played fucking Phantasy Star Universe like crazy. And then when Phantasy Star Online 2 was announced, I was excited. And then I remember like I can't remember how old I was when I first saw the trailer for it. I remember being really excited, and I kept checking every like 3 months to see if it was released on United States shit. And because I think it was released, I think it was being like advertised for social media was like a big deal. Like I don't even have a Twitter back then. I don't think.
Yeah.
And I was like checking all the time. Like when is this damn game coming out? Like after 2 years, I just stopped checking. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I just gave up. And you know, and then one time I tried to download the game to make it work on my PC, and I fucked up something, and I guess they found that I wasn't from fucking from China or fucking Asia, and they just blocked my account.
Yep, they were pretty aggressive about kicking people who weren't from that area out of the game. And you had to like jump through a bunch of hoops with VPN and whatever. It's
Yep,
actually pretty funny.
yep. I tried my damnedest to get in, they wouldn't let me. I got in one time. I got in once. I played for like an hour, and then I never was able to log back in again. And at that point, I gave up. I was like, fuck these guys. I'm like,
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't understand why they wouldn't release it in the fucking West. I just couldn't rationalize why.
Both those decisions, like not only not release it, but they wouldn't let you just play their version either way. Because Dragon Quest X, the Square Enix, they made Dragon Quest X an MMO, and they did the exact same thing where they didn't release it here. And if any U.S. players or anybody who's not from that region tries to go in, they'll try to block your account, and you have to jump through hoops to actually play it. And it's really bizarre. But at least with like the I guess I don't know if it's an expansion or just kind of like a new a rework or whatever it is with PSO2. But like, now they kind of realize it, right? Because they put the beta worldwide, and so they're letting everyone in. So they're like, I think a lot of that's changing. I'm thinking at some point there was a guard change at Sega, which is why even this Virtua Fighter even came up. That's my suspicion anyway.
You think something changed hands, and then someone got some
Some
shit done?
some old man hit the golf course and somebody with some
Quick, while he's gone, do
somebody
something.
with brain exists past 2016 took the helm. And so
Hopefully, this is for the better. The I know we haven't talked about Virtual Fighter that much, but I think it's important to talk about what kind of company we're dealing with here, because I feel like that's what most of these conversations when we start thinking critically of these games, it really just goes back to decisions made by a company and questioning why they would do this to shoot. Why would they shoot their own foot? Like that's really what it comes down to. Like why are you shooting your foot? Like I don't get it. Why do you do that? But maybe there's legal reasons I can't possibly understand.
like we can speculate all day, and then sometimes it might just be poor business decisions, and sometimes it's like I guess politics in the company. I bring it up a lot, or just like you said, legal stuff. And we can't always observe the bigger picture, but sometimes I think it probably is just some stubborn old guy in a suit who's been in control for 30 years, and he's not gonna let some young gun tell him to put rollback netcode in the game because he doesn't get told what to do.
Yeah, he's like, I've been making Virtua Fighter since it was made, and we never even had to play online, so that's how we're gonna keep it. Like some shit like that. Hopefully, more and more this changes because there's a lot of companies that we talk about that we would pray that they make better decisions later on that don't involve them fucking themselves over. It wouldn't be so bad if they weren't tied to franchises we desperately want to work. If it was like if Call of Duty was the company that was fucking up, I wouldn't give a fuck because I know they're gonna buy it anyway. But games like fighting games can't afford to fuck up if they want anything, any player base that's any kind of like alive, anything above like a 200 player count, right? You always want more than 200 players playing your game if you want it to be perceived as active. So that's where we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid the Steam charts where you're like, I wonder who's on today. And it's like 30 player count in the entire world on Steam is fucking playing X game. That's where you don't want to be because that means that you have to jump through hoops to play those people. So now we can talk about fucking Virtual Fighter. Now,
Yeah.
Virtual Fighter, the core design is supposed to be esports, but they said they don't have rollback netcode But
So let's read the tweet. Let's just read the tweet. I think that'll make it
okay,
more clear.
yeah, let me read this out loud for everyone who's listening. You're gonna love this shit. Okay, by Seiji Aoki. Some recent fighting games use rollback, but we've created a method to mitigate latency that's distinct from rollback. We've been testing with the US EU players and played with no lag. I've heard this shit before. I heard this shit with Google, with the fucking Stadia. So, what do you think it is?
Man, I already told you my tinfoil hat theory, but before I get to that, like it's anything, right? It can be anything, and because he didn't even specifically say, we're doing delay based code but better, right? So we might be dealing with something completely out of
Unknown.
yeah. So like I have no idea because I'm thinking that because some other interview, which is what set off Twitter, said it wasn't even an interview, it was like a review. It might have been from Kotaku. I don't click on their links, but I think that's where it was from. And I think they said my source said that is the net code is no different from Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, which is 2012 game they were losing from Japan, so they were using delay based code. And so like that's what set everyone off. And then this tweet came later, but it doesn't even have that much attention compared to the initial firestorm, which is funny. So I don't know if like this is just BS or if there's actually something to it. So I'll be looking forward to it on June 1st. I'm gonna download it. I'm gonna play people from because I know people from in the southeast and I know people who play in the northeast, and so we'll see what's going on with that.
I mean, so long as it's not the a rollback is 3. All right, don't
Yeah, we
don't
know.
don't ask me for shit. Like as long as it's not one of those responses, it is not. That's the situation we're in. We'll see. I almost feel like it's the rollback is 3 scenario right now, where the roll.
Yeah, that's very likely.
I almost believe it wholeheartedly. The rollback is 3 all over again. By the way, whoever's listening, if you don't know what I'm talking about, fucking Harada, when we asked them, when I say we, I mean the fighting community, asked them about rollback and implementation of it inside of Tekken because Tekken's net code is garbage. He responded with the rollback is 3. And someone asked him, I can't remember, it was a guy who works on rollback netcode. I can't remember if it was Mauve Cow or whatever the fuck his name is. He goes, hey, Harada, I'm not trying to be rude, but what exactly do you mean by the rollback is 3? Is delay 3 or is that the many frames? And then fucking Harada goes, do you have your ears open? I said rollback is 3.
That was interesting because he also made the tweets like everybody doesn't know what they're talking about. They keep saying rollback, but it was in Tekken all along, and you didn't know.
Well, yeah,
And
yeah, he gave us that shit, and clearly it's trash. If there is rollback in Tekken, it's not functional, and it doesn't work the way we need it to work. It's reverse rollback. It's the worst version of rollback ever. It's delayed rollback in a way that does not work in anybody's benefit.
I
It,
think most people at this point who are in the know, like they don't believe it at all.
yeah, I've already told him. I was like, I remember the first day everyone was like, yeah, see, he says it does have rollback. I was like, have you ever seen this fucking game rollback? Like, it doesn't do rollback. So if it is rollback, then it doesn't do anything rollback's supposed to do. So therefore, it is worthless to me. So I'm hoping Virtual Fighter's scenario here is not that the rollback is 3, where the guy is just saying some shit just to be like, hey guys, don't get upset. We have our own special blast processing netcode, and it's gonna fucking blow your brains out. And then we're gonna get it. It's gonna be fucking delayed netcode, and it's gonna fucking skip like goddamn crazy. But there's no talent. I mean, I'm not telling. Here's the reason why this conversation even comes up in the first place. Because I don't know every Virtual Fighter player. There's not very many that are well known, but here in the United States, I know there's like at least 10 people who have a decent following for Virtual Fighter on Twitter. And the biggest thing is that they're upset because everyone is shitting on the game before it even comes out about the netcode. And they're like, well, if it's this and that, then I don't. You guys have never even played Virtua Fighter. Guys that aren't even playing Virtua Fighter, they're not even gonna buy the game anyway. And I don't know why they want to talk shit. Well, it's not because it's not because we want to talk shit about a game we're not gonna buy. It's more like the prospect of buying a game that we know will not function correctly is not good. And I know a lot of people tolerate playing really shitty online games like fucking Dragon Ball and fucking Street Fighter because they just like the game.
Yeah.
But you know for a fact that they had a choice to play another game that wasn't called Dragon Ball, but it was exactly the same as Dragon Ball and all the characters worked exactly the same, but this one had rollback, they would play that one instead. Or Street Fighter. Like if it was called like Fighting Street and it had the exact same characters that were in the other game, but it had rollback netcode that worked, they would just play that game. So there's not that people want to shit on it. It's just people just want a game. They want to try a game with the possibility to be able to play it with some kind of longevity, right? Because there's a timer on fight. I've already brought this up. There's a long time ago. There's a timer on fighting games where after about 4 or 5 months, you can go ahead and just fucking write off the connectivity on your games because the less people play, the fewer amount of good matches you'll get, and then it pushes more people away, and then therefore the more amount the matches you get are even worse, and then so those guys leave, and all you're left is with fucking hardcore players.
And dry ass lobbies where you gotta find that quote unquote active window.
Yep, you gotta go on fucking 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at X o'clock. I remember I saw who was it? It was somebody. I see a bunch of Grand Blue Fantasy Defenders in my fucking Twitter too. Someone posted about wanting rollback, and they were trying to like make a plea to fucking shout the fucking developers to shout over side games, and obviously side games don't give a fuck because they have a ton of fucking money and they could easily fucking put rollback netcode in there easily because they're literally a gambling simulator. They could easily just give you. They have a ton of money. Trust me, it's not going back into the fucking games either because the amount of money they spend to develop the shit they make is not even close to like what they're making off of people for gambling. But the they were asking, hey, can you allow? Hey, it would be cool if you put rollback netcode in the game because it would be like this. And you see how dead the lobbies are. The guy logged in and there was like nobody in the fucking player lobby and da 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 da. And of course, a bunch of people chimed in. They're like, I don't know what lobby you were in, but I played earlier. There was like 12 people in there. I'm like, and I'm just like staring at that. I'm like, huh. And the guy's like, well, what time did you play? He's like, well, I played like at I played
It was
like
1:30 p.m. that tweet. I remember that specifically.
yeah. He's like, and the guy's like, well, there's your problem. There's no one at the house yet. You gotta do that. I'm like, dude, if I fucking go to Smite and I press the Q button, I get a game no matter what time of day it could be. It could be fucking 4 in the morning. And trust me, I hate playing Smite at 4 a.m., but I can do it if I feel like it. So it's not an issue of it's not an issue of you can't find people. It's more like if you get to the point where you have to pick times of the day to play, then you got a problem. And I don't like Grand Blue Fantasy. I don't really care for its gameplay that much. It just feels like bland Street Fighter 2 to me specifically, but I know a lot of people personally that like that game. And a lot of them left because the net play is horrible. And not only that, I don't even know if they ever made an answer for people rage quitting. Like, I don't think there's a punishment. I don't think they ever put in a punishment for rage quitting. So that game is literally got regular ass shitty delayed netcode that everyone hates, times rage quits that don't get punished. So what kind of environment do you think that makes for people that want to play? It's a shitty one. And so the people that do want to stay around, they won't. They just leave. And the only people that are left are the ones that are going to plead with others to play at a specific time. And that's what it devolves into. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you playing with the game. It's just you can't, like, don't tell the other guy that he's wrong for wanting that. Because if you have to be like, no, you got to be playing at 6 p.m. If you ever say, you're already wrong. You're already wrong. Just don't even talk about it because you're not in the right anymore.
Let me give you my take on that because I at least understand where that concept's coming from. I understand where the Virtua Fighter players are coming from because at this point, even if you go back and forth, even if I whine about you not playing the game anyway because it doesn't have rollback, yada yada, right? Me and you both know one true fact is that no matter how I feel about it, I can't change it, even if I love the game to death. And so that's where a lot of this frustration is coming from because you got the Virtua Fighter players who are used to people, crapping all over their game. And they're taking this as some kind of attack because they weren't going to play it, so they just want an excuse to make sure no one else plays it, and it's just paranoia. And then you also got people who are screaming back at the Virtua Fighter players, "No, no, no! See, you want to play that old game that has rollback? You're crazy. That doesn't have roll. You're crazy." And at this point, it's like it's a bunch of energy directed at the wrong people. Like they should be mass tagging, RGG Studio here on Twitter and Sega and telling them that, what an old Virtua Fighter head or what a Grand Blue player thinks does not matter. What you tell the studio matters. So like even if I never agree with you, I'm an old stubborn mule. It don't matter. You don't be telling me anything because I can't change it, and I'm gonna play the game anyway. So if I'm stubborn and say, man, whatever, it's delay based. If you really love it, you'll play it. Whatever nonsense. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter because that's just more to me. That's more of a social media thing, and I think that because like I was thinking back when KOF 15 was getting pressured by social media by they were mass hashtagging, right? And they actually said something. They had to say something like, we don't know if it's true, right? But they saw the demand and it was focused on a singular point, and they were like, we have to at least address this because the way this is, we may not be able to sell this game. So they had to say something, and so that's what I'm thinking. Because I don't know if you saw this tweet, but one of the community manager for RGG Studio here in the West was like, "Yeah, just at them, and they will at least read it. I can't promise you they'll do anything, but they will read the feedback." And so like I see all this energy is being directed at the old heads, and the old heads are directing it back. In reality, it just needs to be fine focused like a laser onto these studios. The devs are the problem. They're the one who presented this issue in the first place. It doesn't really matter what the people who can't do anything say. They're the ones who made it so that these people are fighting over it, and these people are having to scrape together communities from scratch in a game they can't really play online, past their region that they live in. And there's places on this planet, like a lot of places in South America, for example, because a lot of my South American friends are like, if this game does not have rollback, it doesn't exist here because we have this singular internet line and people live, X, Y, and Z far away, and there's no centralized hubs that we can have local. So if this game don't have rollback, where I can play outside my region, it don't exist. And so like it's the devs who made this messed up situation, and we have to constantly pound that in and direct that energy there. And that's the kind of thing I don't like social media for, but I do like it because social media allows that communication, right? But it also amplifies the fact that when somebody is discontent with something for whatever reason, in this case, someone says, types, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. It looks cool. I would have played it, but
No
no
rollback.
rollback
No
is basically
buy.
dead. Yeah, yeah, no buy. This game is dead. This game is DEAD dead. No one can save it, and then so somebody who's been pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into the Virtua Fighter community for years, like even before the scene sees it, they see this and like, we played it when it had delay base, when we had to drive 2 hours and 3 hours for our locals, which isn't reasonable for everybody, but they'll in their mind are like, we went through the loopholes and we made this game work despite what it was, because that's what was given to us. We love the game. And so that kind of idea conflicts because you have people who are just like they're riding or die for Virtua Fighter regardless of what is presented to them, and then you have the people who are, are pretty interested in it, but if it's not a good product, they might not cash in, and you have the people who are just kind of dipping their toe. You always have a range of interest in anything. And so when they see that, they're like, we did this, we went through it through hell and high water, and it's like they got to also look at the fact that not everybody is going to love that game to that degree. Maybe they'll dip their toe in and realize it's not for them, or maybe they'll become diehard as you one day. But if they don't, but if the barrier to entry is so high and convoluted, then it's not going to let you build a scene the way you want it to. You can maintain the scene and you can strengthen the players who are in it, and be there for each other, put up your parsec servers and organize your lobby nights like in Grand Blue. So you as a community, you can do those things to make it work. But that is completely separate from the environment that devs presented you. But a lot of people on social media, they get the two clouded up. And so like the people who are making Grand Blue lobbies and pushing this game because they love it are seeing like, no, roll back, this game's crap, is dead on whatever. They're gonna take that personally, but they shouldn't because the devs did that. And likewise, when those people who are, feeling kind of frustrated because they put their blood, sweat, and tears into making the community work with what they had, see these people just kind of, hand wave it away. They just be careful and just keep focusing. Like when you want to say that, my opinion is just instead of shouting into the abyss, tag side games and let them know like you need to fix this. You need to fix this. At some point, if they see it enough, they can't just blatantly ignore it because they have interviews that are like we've considered rollback netcode. You've seen the interviews.
Yeah,
We don't
worth
think
it.
it's really worth it, or we'll look into it later or some garbage, just to let you know that they're aware of your demand. But that right there is a kind of like a crack in the barrier where they've had to acknowledge it because enough people let them know. So that's my thing with the Virtua Fighter fans. I get why people are frustrated, but you shouldn't yell at the newer players. And again, I don't think it's like that mass. I think it's just social media. When somebody says something inflammatory, that's what gets shared, and that's what people will see. And when people see that enough, they'll think that's what's going on. That's what everybody's saying. But most of the VF heads are not like dogging the younger guy, the people who are trying to get in. And likewise, the people who are trying to get in are not dogging the VF community. But somebody says something inflammatory enough, the social media algorithm will see all the people who get mad about it, and they'll share it, and then the other people will share it, and it'll get shared within that community, and then so a lot of people get frustrated. It's one of those things where you gotta touch grass, as the kids say.
That's like a small fire turned into a fucking blazing wildfire kind of scenario where it's not that big of a deal, but somebody just blows wind into it and it fucking explodes. That's,
Yeah.
that's what that shit is. Honestly, if there's anyone that knows about maintaining a tiny community for a game that deserves to die, it's probably me. And sometimes you just gotta understand the reality of what it is, right? Because as much as I wish I love Samurai Showdown enough to be like, anytime anyone shits on it, I'm like, hey, I can't
Yeah.
be that guy because in reality, it fucking doesn't work. So how could I possibly tell this guy to not be dissatisfied with the product? Right?
Yeah, it's just like it just depends on your personality, right? Because the other Painbot will go, well, hey, I got a Parsec server up. Join my Discord, and we'll keep playing. We'll keep the game alive, right? So it just depends on who you ask, and those people might, feel a little way about it, but because they just want to play the game regardless of anything that happens, and that's how it is. That's why my main focus is don't focus on those people. Don't focus on the people who are, decrying about this, that, and the other. If you think Final Showdown or Ultimate Showdown should have rollback, tag RGG and Sega, yell at them, yell at them. Tell your friends to yell at them. Tell their friends to yell at them. Keep screaming at them instead of screaming like if some old head on VF is saying, oh, nobody wants to play because they ain't real about it. Just hit mute, block, or just ignore it and immediately tag RGG. Let them know. Let them know. That's my ultimate take on it, because if you don't focus it and you turn it into some big fight, and then what happens is the Twitter algorithm will let it run through for a week or two, then nobody will care. Nobody will be talking about rollback in VF because they won't be talking about VF, right? The VF community will go back to its insular kind of nature and take in a few people, because no matter how the game is set up, there's a few people who are going to go in and they're going to like it enough, and they're going to join the tourneys and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it will grow, but
Not by how much the
yeah,
potentially could have been. That's the
yeah.
whole this. That's the reason
Mhm.
why it's upsetting. That's actually the reason why it's upsetting.
Agreed. Agreed. Because it's not like the VF players who are just like, the community supporters. It's not like they want the game to fail. They want rollback in that game, right? But they can't put it in there. But
Yeah,
a lot of their frustration sometimes it comes out as
it's the incorrect way to vent it, because
yeah,
they should be mad because that guy's upset because the game doesn't work, but not at him. They should be mad because the game that they love is going to come out, and then instead of getting 200 new people, they're going to get 4, right? So like that's why he should be upset. He's going the wrong way about it. And honestly, they should just yell at the company. I mean, that's what I did. And I mean, I had a whole conversation. I think I also got like into it with some of the guys that work at SNK that develop rollback, and they were like, "You can't just harass developers." I'm like, "Yeah, the fuck I can." I can't remember if that's what happened. That was a whole different
I
story.
remember that tweet. Yeah, he's like, because you said it was okay to harass the developers. I thought you meant like the company and not the specific
No,
people. But I
not the
think,
no, no, not the specific. I meant the company.
yeah,
He thinks I meant to harass specific people on Twitter.
yeah, that's the why the term developer is kind of like really inky, because it can mean like the game developer as a company. It could mean like the guy who's sitting there coding, and then you're like, hey, Brian Kerchak, if you don't put rollback in my game, then I'm coming after your family. If
Look,
somebody did something like that, most people would just think they were weird and off kilter.
yeah. Look here, David Mishimoto. I need you to get back in that office and make that shit roll back right now. Like that shit. That's not what I mean. I mean, you fucking go to SNK's Twitter page and you fucking let them know that shit needs to work. That's it. That's all I need. That is totally cool. And companies deserve that. Companies earn every bit of harassment because if the shit worked, then they wouldn't have gotten harassed at all. Well, they would have. People are fucking crazy. They would, but it wouldn't. It wouldn't be. It'd be three crazy fucking fanatics being upset by boob jiggle, as opposed to 100,000 potential buyers being upset their game doesn't fucking work. You know, you just narrow it down to boob jiggle guys instead of fucking
Yeah,
people that are legitimately upset about their game.
for sure, for sure. Like it's funny because a lot of people get mad at just like legitimate feedback, but I'm like, these companies, they're not a human being; they're an
Their
entity.
entity.
They're an entity, so they don't get annoyed at feedback. In fact, do you know how much any corporation spends on marketing and advertising? If they knew that they could just get a bunch of people to say exactly what they wanted in their product all at once, you don't think they would jump for joy? These people they run focus groups. They pay huge money for billboards, TV commercials. You don't think that if the whole mass of people who buy your product say this is what we want, this is what we'll buy, you think they get annoyed at that? It's so
No.
silly. I'm like, they're not a person. They want to hear your feedback, better or worse. If even if it's something simple like put Makoto in Street Fighter Five, if enough people say that, they gotta at least acknowledge it and realize people want this. This is feedback. This is something that is of value to our game. They want feedback. They desire it. They crave it. They
Yeah.
spend so much money to try to get these games known and heard. And so like knowing what your audience wants and knowing that you have a guideline through social media to do it. Yeah, and sometimes you're gonna have the weirdos, but they're not gonna be too many of them.
Nah. I mean, why do you think there's so many Chun-Li and Jury costumes? They got a lot of feedback about that shit. You think anyone who plays Street Fighter Five listening right now, you think it's a little weird that there's a disproportionate amount of Jury and Chun-Li costumes? It's not. They literally get the feedback from the people on Twitter, and then that's what they know they're going to spend money on. So all companies work this way. If they can make money from you, if they could get a direct feed from the majority of people to make the most amount of money with as little money as spent as possible, they will do it in a heartbeat. Because any money spent that doesn't work is a waste of money to them. So if they just knew that this one thing would make people buy it and they didn't have to let's just say, you know what? This is a good example. This is a fucking fantastic example. Virtua Fighter 5, this new one, if they knew that tournament mode was worthless and the other mode was worthless, and they spent that money on rollback instead, and that would have gained them 100,000 more potential players, they would have done it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't know. They thought they saw esports, they saw competitive, and their brain goes tournament mode. So that's what they went. So it's not about like these guys will do whatever it takes to get people's money.
Yeah, you're not hurting nobody's feelings.
Yeah,
Tag is Sega, Arxis, Atlas, Microsoft, Tide, laundry detergent. If you want a coconut flavor, let them know, man.
yeah, anything. It doesn't matter. If they fucking think that people eat Tide Pods and they make them non-toxic and flavored, they'll do it.
Tide Pod gummies.
Yeah, Tide Pod gummies, they'll do it. They don't give a fuck, man. These companies. That's why it always. I'm the most anti corporation guy. I like corporations existing because they make creative products and mass produce them so that everyone can consume. But I really don't like corporations because a lot of people end up simping for their corporations, and they have these really biased opinions that make absolutely no logical sense. Because sometimes the majority of people will be like, you know, if this game worked, I'd buy it, and then they're like, nah. Like I'm like, why would you fucking tell them that? Like, if the if that corporate guy sees that you say no, and you have 1,000 retweets, but the guy that says that we want the game to work has none, they're gonna make the game not work. I'm tired of it. I'm just sick and tired of these fucking people naysaying for their shit to be better. Just make the game. People want your game to be better. Stop naysaying it. You should be on board. You think the Samurai Showdown people want to fucking host their game on Parsec? They're fucking tired of it. I don't know how the Virtual Fighter guy's gonna do it. They're probably going to play on Parsec too. Honestly.
Yeah, they've been playing on Parsec for the VF3. They've been using the emulator for PS3.
Well, here's the fucked up part: is that if there's no PS4 emulation for this game, I don't think.
PS4 emulation, I think, is still quite a ways off.
Yeah, so like they don't even have a Parsec option. So guess what? They just fucked. They just gonna have to play the PS3 version. If this game sucks in terms of net play, and let's just say it's hypothetically even worse than the PS3 offline PS3 version. I'm being obviously this is the worst possible direction, right? Let's just say because this happens, right? Because Street Fighter 4 got ported to fucking to PS4. It was the worst version of Street Fighter 4. We still playing on it. It's still the worst version of Street Fighter 4, and we're stuck with it. But if Virtual Fighter 5, the new version, is the worst version, then what's stopping those guys? Those guys literally will have to just stay playing the Parsec PS3 version. That's the worst possible scenario. But I mean, are you gonna sit there now like, look, man, you guys saying that we need rollback killed it? Like, that's not what happened. The fucking guys giving you a bad product that doesn't work and doesn't meet the needs of today's fighting game consumer is what killed it. Not guys on the internet complaining about things that it needs to have, but the actual fact that it doesn't have it. That's what killed the fucking game. And I'm not saying it's dead, because it technically can't be dead because it's free. It's free for anyone who plays on the internet on PlayStation. So if it doesn't fucking, like, if people just stop playing a free game that's full of content like that, you have to just see for what it is. You have to see it for what it is. It doesn't have what people want in today's day and age, and it's just gonna die. That's why fucking shit like Dragon Ball works, because people want Dragon Ball, and so even though the game's net play is trash, they throw Brawly in there, and that's it. They met the needs of the fucking 95% of Dragon Ball fans.
Yeah, they gave them what they wanted, and it's funny. The Dragon Ball fans went after them too, and they had to acknowledge it, right? The producer got up there, Hiroki-san. Hiroki-san got up there, had to say, "Oh yeah, we saw that you want to roll back, and we don't know if we can do it." They hit that crack. They didn't break the barrier, but again, that just goes to show you, if you focus your attention, they gotta at least pay attention to you, and the more you focus it, they can't ignore it unless they really want it to fail. So as far as Virtua Fighter though, like, again, I've said this 1,000 times. I keep saying it. Just focus. Keep tagging RGG at RGG Studio on Twitter, because the community manager blatantly said they're taking feedback and they're listening. So let them know. Let them know.
Do exactly what Coach says, because there are happy stories. Look at Melty Blood. You see what happened to Melty Blood? For those who don't know about Melty Blood, that game, I don't know what's more like. So this is technically the best story you could ever have. So the developer for Under Night, also I think it's the same developing team for Melty Blood, right? So they didn't know what the fuck rollback netcode was at all. Like last year, 2 years ago, I think. I remember. I can't. There was a
little further back.
It's further back, like 3 years ago. There was a tweet made by him, the head guy. He goes, "What's rollback netcode?" And everyone dumped that fucking guy with all the possible information he could need. And because if anyone knows about anything about fucking like Under Night, it's got one of the fucking worst delayed netcodes I've ever fucking played on. Like, god damn, it was bad. But it was bad. But the guys who play Melty Blood on the older Melty Blood, somebody in the community, I think, developed rollback for that.
Yeah, game. That's okay. That was a long ass time ago.
Yeah, that was forever ago. But Anyway, the whole point is that if they didn't yell at the Under Night guys to make rollback on the Under Night game, which it won't get rollback, but
And they did. He said that he was honestly attempting to put it in there, and it trial and error, and then it's legit hard, no matter how much they want to do it or not.
yeah, but odds are it's not. But the good news is that Melty Blood, the new one, has rollback, as opposed to what I fear is happening with SNK. I don't believe they have fucking rollback for King of Fighters. Obviously, that's me being super negative, but I'm pretty sure they're just straight up lying. But
At the very least, we got it on tape.
yeah, we got it on tape that they're liars. But fucking, but the good news is that now we will the whole point of this shit is to make sure the future generations don't have to suffer. We suffer for so long. We need to get the rollback to be normal, and getting these developers to know what it is the first step. And it happened real time. Obviously, Under Night didn't get it, but Melty Blood getting it is a really good sign, because that could have just as easily been another delayed netcode game. Like
That is true.
Just as easily it have been. Which is what I'm 90% sure was happening with Virtua Fighter. But I mean, this guy claims to have some seamless hypothetical netcode system that we've never seen before.
You know what's actually funny about that is before that interview tweet came out, people were like, "That I wonder if Sega even knows rollback exists," because Sega's not been in the fighting game dev circle for a while, right? Especially not in the social media era. So the fact that they even went before it, and said in the interview, like, mentioned that rollback exists, and that they didn't do it, means that they're acutely aware that is a demand for the fighting game products. So there's no more ignorance that we can. There's no more ignorance at this point. So at this point, it's whether it's do or die. You can't say, well, we didn't know that was what people wanted. Everybody knows what. Even Sega, who has not been into the fighting game for a good while, knows that this exists and knows that it's a specific demand, especially in the West. And because you notice, like, right after they followed up with this, fantastical new netcode they have, what do they say they tested it at? The United States and Europe. So they're acutely aware of this. There's no more ignorance. So they know what it is they want, and they know what it is we need to play these games. It's a matter if they're going to offer it now.
Well, I'll give them kudos for responding 5 months quicker than SNK. They responded in like a couple days, it feels like, right? Because it blew up, and then within like a couple days they talked about it, right? So, it seems like it was pretty fast. The response time is way better. SNK, I'd assume it's just gonna be radio silence until it's too late most of the time. But Sega at least said something. That's way better than I could ever imagine. I honestly thought it was gonna be radio. I was so sure it was gonna just be radio silence. I mean, just look at fucking. I mean, it could be even worse than that. You could have rollback netcode, and the company could just refuse to fix it, like fucking Capcom.
Yeah,
they just won't talk about it, and then they'll fucking blacklist you if you do talk about it. You hear about that shit? Did you read that interview about like Sajam got fucking like blacklisted for a little bit for talking about how bad the netcode is?
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, apparently he wasn't like commentating that fucking shit for a while because of how he was speaking ill of Capcom in terms of the net play.
I have to look that up.
Yeah, I don't know for sure how true it is, but Sajam himself said it. He's like, this has happened to me right after I made the netcode. Almost after he said the rollback fiasco is like when it happened. Because whether I like Sajam or not, he fucking he's the one that did talk about it, and everyone else started. Obviously, if you've been playing fighting games for a long ass time, then you know about rollback netcode and how important it is. But a lot of Street Fighter players that are new to the scene don't exactly know why it's such a big fucking deal and why.
Yeah, he's the one who made it a public conversation.
Yeah, he made it a topic that now no one will shut up about, which is good. This is the best possible. I don't even know why people hate that people won't shut up about it. It's literally the most important thing we could possibly want. It's like, what else do you want us to talk about? Costumes? What are we going to talk about? We just want the game to work. It's a unified issue. It's not like the reason why everyone talks about rollback is because there's like 0 fighting games where rollback works completely. There's like fucking 4, maybe 3 of current era. And by current era, I mean like maybe in the last like 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Strive is a great thing because it's gonna it's gonna because a lot of people this gonna be their very first game, right? Their very first fighting game, and it's gonna be
yes,
the first one they're gonna take seriously or compete in. So it's gonna be a big first for a lot of people, and so they're gonna someone's gonna come around after the Strive and be like, hey, or what generally happens when a game gets big, right? With new people, they're gonna branch out and try other things. That's just natural. And so someone might be like one day, like, hey, this is a game I played Street Fighter 4, and they might look at a clip and see like Fudo's Fei Long going in, and be like, that's sick, and then they'll get it on PC, and then they'll play it. And what the hell is this? What is this? Because they're gonna be like essentially born in a new standard. It's
yeah,
like being born after the cell phone era. Like you don't want to use a landline anymore. You'll use a rotary.
oh
What is
yeah.
that?
Imagine them going back like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll play Exard, and they're gonna not play that fucking game. It's just not gonna work. They're gonna try to play that game online. It's gonna be like it's gonna not gonna fucking work. So the good news is that since Strive is bringing in new blood, they are not gonna be accepting of any of this shit that we've been trained to accept. We've been trained to the corporation's been getting to your mind, and they've been making you think this is okay, but it's not.
We've been eating rice gruel for years, and then we tasted steak. But the people who refuse to eat that steak, they're gonna complain like, this is perfectly good rice gruel, and
Yeah.
and you got to be thankful to the rice farmers. But these kids that grow up on the steak right away, man, they don't want to eat that.
Yeah, like why are you eating rice? Well, back in my day, gruel was all we had, and I don't think the taste of steak is that great. I'm like, all right, old man, let's go back to let's take you back to round one. Like this is I don't know. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm really glad that the it's gonna be this way, because I feel like Strive is gonna be what 5 should have been in terms of launch. Like it's gonna have everything. It's gonna be the rollback. It's gonna be the start of a bunch of new people playing fighting games, and hopefully this time it leaves a good taste in their mouth instead of everyone shitting on the game for 7 years.
It's funny because like you think about how Plus R is just flourishing, right? There's a Plus R tournament every
Yeah,
fucking day, and there's like huge 30 40 man tournaments, and they recently had a 25 versus 25 event, and they had a big US versus Japan exhibition where every character is represented, and they played US versus Japan first of all, right? But they actually got a person for every single character. It played an exhibition all night long. What other game does stuff like that? I can't think of one. Can you?
no.
Right. So like, and that's just for a game that's pretty old, even at the base, even at its latest version. So like, if Strive takes off, like I think Strive is gonna have like the same kind of effect, except it's gonna be much bigger because it's a newer game, and a lot of people are gonna be kind of limping on and trying it. And there's gonna be people from other communities. And there's gonna be I think it's gonna be online events for Strive coming out the woodworks, and they're gonna be huge number, and some of them are probably gonna flop because they're not gonna be organized enough. But I think there's gonna be a ton. You're gonna see a lot of exhibitions. You're gonna see a lot of regional exhibitions. So you're probably gonna start seeing stuff like, here's the Southeast versus Northeast 5v5 or 10v10, where people can actually do crew battles online and supplement the offline tournament hype with that kind of thing, and it's gonna be massive. That's what I think.
Oh, so I mean, I don't find the game that appealing because I'm a seasoned player and I've been playing fighting games for a long time. So like, there's nothing new in that game to me. But for someone who's starting off and all the new people coming in and all this shit is popping off, that's a lot to be hopeful for. Because these new guys that never played a fighting game before, this is all new to them. There's nothing for them to be upset about. It's just fucking the game's gonna work. Hopefully.
Yeah, and even then, even like a lot of the old players are gonna play it, and then people who've been in the FGC but never played Guilty Gear are gonna play it. This is gonna be a lot of people playing it. It is gonna be and so like you as a new player are gonna come in like, oh man, it's a tournament every day. I can join. Even if your schedule is like crazy on the weekends, you can still join a Thursday tournament, or you can join a Saturday tournament, and then you get your crew together. You from Houston, Texas, and you're like, yo, let's go play the Sacramento guys because they've been talking shit on Twitter. That kind of stuff will be feasible, and so people are gonna flock to it. That's my opinion. Like I think the gameplay is almost irrelevant, and not in so much that it doesn't matter, but that you're gonna have a community that will fill that container regardless, no matter what the game is. Like in all these newer games, you're gonna have a community that fills the container. If the container for Strive is massive.
Yeah, and also for better for worse, we're gonna have all the content creators fucking try to rush out as much bullshit as they can. All the clickbait bullshit, all the stupid faces, everything's gonna be everywhere. So any person who's like a regular guy that might not look at a fighting game might fall for the stupid face, click it, and be interested in the game.
Hey
So
man, YouTube analytics, that's how they work, man. You
yeah,
can't fight
I
can't fight
know,
it.
but it is what it is. I'm just saying that all the content creators are definitely going to try to rush being the first, right? So everyone's going to try to outdo each other. So there's going to be a lot of content out there on YouTube for this shit, and that may bring in even more people because they're going to be interested in the game because the game looks crazy. Like the character designs look amazing. So
Yep. So
it might bring.
go ahead.
I was like, so it might bring people in just out of pure curiosity of what they're looking at.
Definitely, because like the thing you always see with Grand Blue, Samurai Showdown, because I still check the Samurai Showdown Reddit, and it's inevitable. That one post, you know what post I'm talking about, right?
Which one?
Oh man, I saw this cool tournament, and I bought the game, and I logged on. I didn't see anybody.
Oh yeah,
Is anybody
that.
playing?
Yeah,
Is anybody playing this game?
yeah, yeah.
That will never happen with Strive. Never. Like unless like they have some weird network issue where the game just never logs on or something like that. But as long as it's actually function as intended, that'll never happen. Because you see something, you see Potemkin do some cool sequence, and you turn on the game, you'll see a ton of people playing,
Yep.
even if it's 8 months from now.
That's the hopeful future we can bet on. Maybe this game will evolve into something that everyone can like, and then we have a nice game we could finally fucking unify over that works.
There'll never be a unifying fighting game because people's taste is too divergent. But I'm just glad that the community that will fill in Strive will be solidified by the system that is works on.
Well, it's more like I'm saying unified in a way that people like this game will be something that people can get behind. Not even if they don't like the game, like gameplay was.
Right.
Because the whole when I say unified, this is what I'm saying. Hey, ask me what ask me okay, ask me what my favorite fighting game is.
What's your favorite fighting game, man?
Oh man, I love Samurai Showdown. Now ask me if you should play online.
Hey man, should I buy me a copy of Samurai Showdown Play
No,
Online?
don't buy that shit. Buy Guilty Gear Strive. You see that game? If you log on, you can play whenever you fucking feel like, and the net code is pretty good. That's what we don't have. We don't have anything like that. If I don't have, there is no fighting game I can recommend any normal human being that does not have the ability to waste as much time as possible. Because all fighting games right now are either trash because they don't work, or they don't have a very big like fucking community.
Yeah, you can say they're niche, right? Because that's just how they are. Because not everything is gonna have the big name to it, like
Well,
you said. And there's gonna be a dedicated community, but it's gonna be niche.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, essentially, yeah, they either are fucking too niche or their fucking netcode is trash. I feel like it's always one or the other. Either because a lot of the more popular games are just trash and the fucking netcode is trash. But then the games that are niche, they work really well, but there's no one playing. There's no one fucking. Well, there's people playing them, but the number is like, hey man, you just have to log in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or else you're not gonna get any games, right? So I'm hoping Strive will be the game. I'm like, hey man, I like this game, but it's like dead. It's not dead, but you know you're not gonna be able to fucking log on and play. So just buy Strive. You want to get in fighting games? Buy Strive. That's what I want. That I have nothing like that. I'm not gonna tell no one to buy Mortal Kombat or fucking Injustice. This is the only. I want someone to fucking play Strive. Like that's what I want.
All
Even
right, man,
even
just
if I
do
don't like
you.
it. Yeah, even if I don't like the damn game. Even if I don't like Strive and I'm just like, this game is whack and boring. I can still tell. I know for a fact if I tell some regular Joe Schmo to play Strive, they'll be fine. Because the game is like simplified now and the netcode is good. And there's a lot of content. And there's going to be at least a story mode that plays on itself. So even he can't be too bad to finish it. So like, that's the game to me. Like, hey, go play Strive, man. Just fucking buy Strive.
Yeah, find out what happens to Ramlethal and just enjoy yourself. Or when you're hankering for that 2 a.m. gun flame, you can just turn the game on.
Throw 7 gun flames and go back to sleep. Will Ramathal eat a burger? Let me finish this fucking story mode. Like, I don't. There's not. There's like so much. The only thing that game is gonna be missing, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna do, is like skins. I think that would be something else they would probably. I don't think. I don't think they've ever done skins in RPG
So
games.
I actually was I saw a thread about this, and it basically the fact that the way they made the game, the way it looks so good. We're talking X art. They had to put like I think they have like the very complex skeletons, and so like making a skin to just like go over it is actually a hassle for them. So that's why they didn't go that route, most likely. Like
Mm.
the game is a victim of his own his own quality.
So it just can't have skins. That's a shame.
Yeah,
They should have skins. That seems like the kind of fighting game that would actually need skins.
yeah, I thought so too, because I was like, you put like Faust in a b-ball costume, or you give the Eno the story mode outfit or something, and it's like people would buy that. That's just how they are. But
Yeah,
maybe they'll have a way to do it in Strive. We'll see.
maybe they thought about it because it's a good opportunity. If not, they're not gonna sell skins, and they give us goddamn characters, I guess. But I can't think of anything else because really the only things you can sell in fighting games are skins and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
stages. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's what that obviously we derailed because we're talking just about Strive now instead of Virtual Fighter, but
yeah.
this all led up to Strive because Strive is the fucking it has the mark of success where Virtual Fighter is like the murkiness of what if.
Yeah, it's a big what if. Like we at least can't dismiss it right away, right? Because usually when you get those interviews where they talk about rollback, well, it's a rollback, but we're sorry we couldn't implement it. Basically saying we're sorry we're giving you delay base, the same stuff we gave you before. But the answer here is specifically not letting you down. It's just saying we did something different. So it might again, well, it may be Harada is 3, or maybe they got a way of doing it. And even if it's not as good as rollback, it might still be much better than the regular delay, right? I mean, we're in a part where anything is possible. So at the very least, I'm gonna get on there on June 1st with my PS Plus. Sorry to your non-console owners, but I'm gonna try it out, and I'll say my opinion on it, I guess. But at the end of the day, there's gonna be a community. They'll be behind it. So if you, all this stuff aside, if you do want to get into Virtua Fighter, there's a lot of resources. VirtuaFighter.com, aptly named, is a very good resource. It has a wiki, command list, combos, frame data. It explains all the systems. So like, even if you decide to jump in, roll back or no, there's resources for you. So go ahead and check that out. And there's plenty of people on Twitter who would gladly help you.
Yeah, man, hit them up. And hopefully Virtual Fighter got that blast processing netcode, and hopefully it's good. If it is, then I wish the best for everyone because I'm a dirty, filthy PC player who doesn't deserve access to fucking 3D fighters, I guess.
Let's hope for that timed exclusivity. Here's hoping.
It probably is. I mean, I don't know if we talked about it earlier, but it probably is a timed exclusive because
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, for you guys who don't know this, there is a functioning version of Virtual Fighter 5 on the PC because it was in the PC version of Yakuza. So
What's funny about that is it's actually the 360 version, and they stuffed it in the game, and then they cut off they hid and cut off all the features in it except for like the arcade and no, it's not even training mode in that. It's like arcade and versus.
someone figured out how to open it up. I think I remember. I think Ben said something about it or Smile, but they were like, yeah, they it's the same one, except they just locked everything away, like you said, and then they were like, yeah, well, we figured out how to open it up.
Yeah, someone made an unlocker so you can just like play the game raw. Like it pretty much has everything except for the actual online functions because it's not Xbox Live you're on.
Well, if you're a filthy PC player like me, then maybe if you're interested in playing Virtua Fighter, then that maybe be the way to look into it. But we'll see, we'll see. I have faith in Sega, I guess, a little bit to not.
I won't say I have faith, but I will at least take what they said at face value that they took in consideration what people are frustrated with, because that's what that post said to me. Like we know what people are frustrated with, and we addressed it. That's a sense that to me that's a summary of that post. And at the very least, I could try for quote unquote free. I gotta pay a subscription, but I use my PS Plus sometimes, not as
Sometimes.
much. But yeah, I'm gonna get on there and I'm gonna play. Give it its fair shot. play with multiple people and see how it is. So, and I imagine a lot of people will do the same. So I imagine on June 1st you'll hear because the Virtua Fighter heads will play. The people who like me who are kind of casual Virtua Fighter players will talk about it, and then all the people who are just like I never played this, but I'm just jumping in. So you're gonna hear about how the online's gonna work on June 1st. So it ain't gonna be a secret. That's how I feel.
Okay, don't worry. There's gonna be at least 10,000 awful opinions on Twitter tomorrow, I think, and maybe even
Uh
no. It's today.
oh
It's
yeah.
Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, but tomorrow actually, because Blackstar got one. There's the early access bundle. So when they put out the social media call, like if you're a content creator, and they gave it out to pretty much a lot of people. Like if you had any kind of track record with Virtua Fighter, they gave it out. So you expect to see people streaming tomorrow, but I don't think they'll be online. And it's funny, I don't remember where I read this, but they said, yeah, the online is not gonna be. Oh yeah, it was Maximilian's video. I don't watch Maximilian video, but I watched this specific one because he was talking about it, and he said that yeah, we can't get online yet because he has one now. Maximilian had one like last week, and he was
That 1 million sub bonus.
yeah, yeah. That dude has a huge stream following, a huge YouTube following. So I guess they can just like, here you go, do what you got to do. And so he's been making content since last week, and he specifically mentioned something that stood out in my mind when I was because I remember I was telling you that tinfoil hat theory, but Maximilian said something that reinforced it in my mind. He goes, "We can't play online yet because Sega says it's not ready." That sets some gears in motion in my head because why would that make sense? If it's peer to peer, why do you got to be ready? You know?
The round one arcades aren't staged.
Yeah, but whatever they're doing, it can't just be simple peer to peer. At least that's how I think. Or maybe they have some lock on online play because it's not out yet. Maybe that's it, and I'm just overthinking it. But that doesn't make sense to me, right? Because if it's just peer to peer and they don't care if you're online, why would it matter? He's like, yeah, we can't play online yet because all his all his matches and stuff have been with the people who come to his house.
You're gonna try logging in, and it's gonna be like, ching, your R code isn't loaded correctly. It's gonna be like
Shout out to the R code.
Oh man, I don't even know why it does that. I don't know. There's also server shit in Guilty Gear or something, but hopefully that's not what y'all are met with on that day. Like the fucking like there's some kind of the online's not ready, and it's just like a fighter card system or some shit like that.
Yeah. All right, so it's gonna be interesting. FTC Twitter is gonna be quite a day, but I think you're still gonna have to give it like a couple months, right? Because the initial rush effect and a bunch of people who are gonna be near you will have a good connection.
Oh yeah,
But
that's the trickery. I always say that. Like the first few months, always feel like delay netcode's okay, and then afterwards, you will not ever want to have that shit in your game ever again, because the amount of people are gonna make it feel like it's good. So the real test for a Virtual Fighter is when Strive comes out, because you'll probably have a more like fewer people to pick up, because more people that are like just buying shit will probably play Strive that day. So if you play Virtual Fighter on that day, you start playing people from really far away, then you can probably really tell how good it is.
yeah, either that or somebody like actually sits down and does a measuring test of like how long it takes for your input to come out online and to see if they're actually using the delay.
Yeah, or call your EU buddy, play him. Call your
Yeah,
South
yeah, yeah.
America buddy, play him, see how that goes.
Yeah, so
We'll see.
we'll see. I'm not hopeful, but I can at least take what they said. We're addressing this, and we're gonna see. I'm gonna see if they addressed it.
Hopefully. If not, maybe they'll put it in Fantasy Star Online. Then we can rip it from there.
Oh man.
But all right, we'll end it here. I think that was a good conversation about Virtual Fighter. Obviously, we talked about a bunch of other shit as well, but everything right now in the fighting community is kind of interconnected, because a lot of conversation goes back to making sure the games are playable. And so
Yeah, sure.
we end up talking about everything. But for the most part, that's Virtual Fighter. That's pretty much. I feel like we talked about everything everyone was kind of more concerned with, or like in anticipation with. So hopefully that's enough. But we'll stop it here. So I appreciate everyone listening. I appreciate Coach being on here again, and hopefully he'll be back. Maybe he'll probably be back next week when we talk about if it was a letdown or if it was the best thing ever.
Oh man. Well, thanks for bringing me on, man.
No problem. No problem.